Somebody asked me one time, they said, Tony, out of all the books you've read, all the seminars you've attended, all the people you've worked with, if there's one thing you could tell me that could immediately change the quality of my life forever, make me wealthy and happy, what is it? And I didn't hesitate a heartbeat. I looked this guy right in the eyes and I said, listen, commit yourself to being a full-on team player. Commit yourself to being a team player. That may be the most important commitment you can make of all. Now, what do I mean by that? Why is being a team player so important? I'll tell you why. If you and I want to be happy in our lives, the only way we're happy is when we're growing. If you don't feel like you're growing personally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially, whatever, if you don't really feel like there's progress, like you're growing, what invariably happens to your emotional state? What kind of feelings do you get? Bored, what else? Frustrated, tired, what else? Angry, discouraged, depressed. Now, if you're growing, can you remember times in your life when you felt like, God, you're just growing leaps and bounds emotionally? How many of you felt pretty phenomenal during those times? Those are the states we want most. It doesn't matter what the situation is, we need to grow. That is what life is. Life is growth, it's expansion. We're always either expanding or contracting. And when we contract, it drives us crazy. If you're overeating or smoking or drinking, I guarantee it, there's only one reason. Those are all ways of changing your state. And you don't like the way you feel because you're not growing. Period. You want to be happy for a lifetime, you got to keep growing. But here's the problem. The problem is human beings get comfortable pretty easy, don't they? Like, what makes you grow initially? Most people grow because they want to get acknowledgement. They want people to like them, so they work hard to be successful so they'll be liked. Or they do it to make money because they think if they have money, then they can do anything they want. Or they do it because they think that if they do it, then what's going to happen is they'll have spiritual enlightenment. People have different reasons. But the problem is most of those reasons burn out when you get a certain level of success, let's say. Like when you have enough people acknowledging you, it gets to a point where it's not real motivational anymore. You like hearing it, but it doesn't drive you. Does that make sense? And so you don't have to do any more to get that level of acknowledgement. I mean, that's more than enough. Or we all have an idea of how much money we, quote unquote, think we need. And once you get to that point, you get much above that, and most people are pretty comfortable. There's so many homes you can buy, only so many cars and toys and helicopters and airplanes and all that stuff. There gets to be a point where it's like, you don't need any more for you. So that's no longer a reason to push yourself to grow. Does that make sense? And so the trap is, most of us get caught in this thing called a comfort zone. We stop growing and then we start overeating or drinking or watching television or distracting ourselves or going off and trying to do anything we can to get away from the feeling that we're not expanding the way we used to. So how could you and I guarantee that for a lifetime we would grow, and therefore for a lifetime we would feel happy and alive and wealthy every single day? The way we can do that is by understanding something about human beings that is pretty phenomenal. Makes me proud to be a human, should make you proud too. And that is, human beings will do more for others than they'll ever do for themselves. Human beings will do more for other people than they'll ever do for themselves. That's part of the beauty of being a human being. So how can we use this understanding to make sure we're wealthy and happy for a lifetime? Answer, we need to find a team of people that we care about so much that we're willing to commit every resource we have as a human being to enhancing their lives. And in the process, in order to keep enhancing their lives, we have to grow so we have something to give. And so whose life gets enhanced simultaneously? Our own. My good fortune, I am a wealthy man. And the way I know I'm a wealthy man is, I'll give you an example. At Thanksgiving, I had 50 friends over from all over the country. They're all people I love very deeply, care about very deeply, and totally love and care about me and my family as well. And we have this incredible bond, and every one of them is the kind of person that I feel incredibly lucky to know they're my friend. They're incredible people. I'm sitting here in my castle with my 50 friends at Thanksgiving, and we went out early that morning. We fed all kinds of poor people. We all made these huge baskets of food, and we went to street people and created blankets and things like that in a big basket with food and went out and delivered it. And then here we are watching this incredible sunset over the Pacific Ocean in my living room, 50 people having this meal together. I mean, that is wealth. And the only reason those people are in that room is because for my life, since I can remember, 5, 6, 7 years old, somehow I linked up in my head that if you want the deepest feelings like love, then what you need to do is give to people. That if you're constantly trying to give, you're always going to receive. You can't help but receive. But I also somewhere linked in my head that in order to give people something, the most important thing you can give them is something that increases the quality of their life. Something that would change their life. So you know what? Since I wanted love, my brain said, hey, you better keep learning stuff. You better always be finding something better to give to people so that they'll love you. Now, that may not be a real healthy way to set it up. I don't know. But I like the results it created. Because what it did is it made me addicted to studying and learning and then sharing it immediately to people. Because I love learning and I love sharing it and seeing somebody change and they love me for doing it. It became this incredible positive cycle where, gosh, the more I learn, the more I share, the more love I get. Wow, I want to learn more and everything else. And then therefore, in order to give more, I got to keep growing. So I've been addicted to personal development throughout my life because of some simple neuro associations. Make sense? Not everybody gets those associations. I was pretty lucky, I think. And so I offer you the chance to take a look at how to create that for you. How did it affect the way I was growing up? In every way. I was the kid in high school that everybody came to where there were problems. Because I love solving problems. Because when I solve problems, people like me. And so I got really good at solving problems. Think about it. And when I started learning these techniques for changing people's associations, I started learning Ericksonian hypnosis, I started learning transformational grammar, NLP, right? How to use metaphors. God, man, I got so excited. After my first 4 days of learning some of these techniques, I was so inspired that I was in a foreign city learning them, and I had no place to go, and I didn't know anybody. So I went to a Denny's restaurant, because it was 24 hours, right? And I sat down at the counter and said, hey, tell me a problem you got, and I'll solve it for you. Didn't even have any rapport, right? I was just like committed. So I realized that was a little over gradients, and I started doing private therapies. That's how I started doing what I'm doing private therapies one-on-one. I learned things like you're learning here, and then I went out to people and said, I'm going to help you. Come here. Tell me something that bothers you, and I'm going to change your associations, change everything. I'm going to empower you to feel better and change your whole life. And I started doing those therapies, and I got so good at doing them that I developed this reputation as the one-stop therapist. Come see me one time, I'll wipe it out. Now, it didn't work every time, but about 89% of the time it did. Then what happened was I got to the point where I was doing therapy literally every hour of a day except maybe 1 or 2, where I'd break for lunch and that was it. And I got to the point where I was just burning out completely. And I realized my goal in my life is to reach the most people. I want to reach the largest number of people I can and give them the experience of knowing that they're in control of their experience and get them to demonstrate it. So they're no longer at the effect where they have the freedom they deserve. And I thought, I'm not going to do that doing therapy, so I started creating seminars. And the first seminars I did were 1 day, and then they became 2 days, then 3 days, and now they come in this form of a thing that we're doing here, right? 4 days. And what happened was, after I started doing this program, all of a sudden I was doing this program 4 times a month. Plus I was flying to the city. Well, there was 20 out of 30 days, 22 out of 30 days. Then what happened was I was still doing therapy, so it's like I was spinning these plates. I'm doing these seminars, and I'm doing these therapies. I'm starting to burn out, but then I go to a seminar and something's going to happen to you either tonight or tomorrow. And what's going to happen to you is you're going to have this moment, what I call an aha moment, where all of a sudden, it'll probably be after you've used what I've been teaching you. Like you're going to do some reprogramming on somebody else. Like you'll do some anchoring, and you'll totally change them. And you're going to go, my God, Tony, do you realize how powerful this is? I mean, you can do this and this and this. And I'll go, yes, I do have an idea of how powerful it is. And you're going, well, God, with this kind of information, I mean, you could be helping Vietnam vets. You could be destroying, wiping out all those negative images that have been hurting their lives. You could totally handle that. How come you don't have a program for Vietnam vets? And I'm going, well, okay. So I go over here and do this program for Vietnam vets. Then I keep doing this particular Mind Revolution seminar, right? And then I go here and do the private, therapies. Then I go to another Mind Rev, and guess what somebody would say? Tony, this is incredible. Do you realize what this could do for kids? And I'm going, yeah, okay, Vietnam vets, children, the Mind Revolution seminar, right? Private therapies. And somebody else in the seminar would say, God, you realize what you can do for business people? And I'm going, okay, business people, Vietnam vets, children, the Mind Revolution, private therapies. Then somebody said, you know what you can do for dyslexics? And I'm going, dyslexics, business people, Vietnam vets, children, the Mind Revolution, private therapies. So the next thing I knew, I was burning completely out. But boy, I was contributing. And you know what? I was contributing. I thought contribution would make me happy. But you know what? You can contribute and not feel the joy. And a lot of people do that. That's called being a martyr. Even if that's not your intent. And I had some great business partners at the time. And I had 4 of them. And they were all running around trying to keep up with all these insane projects I was generating each week. I mean, each week I come up with a new company, Oh, let's do this, And I remember one time I came back from this week of insanity, and I sat down in this business meeting. In about an hour, I generated like 4 more huge company-sized projects, right? And they said, Tony, why don't you take a vacation? I said, no, I got to do this and this and this, got to do this thing and that thing. And they said, no, we've already made arrangements for you. I said, you can't do that. And they said, no, we've been talking with one of your friends, Rick Green, and here's what we got, They said, why don't you do this? There's this great program why don't you go and we're going to have you work out with the Los Angeles Dodgers baseball team. Go there, you can go to Vero Beach, Florida, work out with these guys for 2 weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks. I said, no. And they knew I loved the Dodgers, so I went, well, no, I can't do that. I got to work. They said, Tony, if you go, you could model the players. I went, model? Work? Okay. So their goal for me, I think, was probably to get me out of their hair, number one. Number two, to get me to take care of myself. To go back there, sit down in the Florida sunshine, kick back, relax, get tan, spend some time with some of these players that I really liked, right? You think that's what I did? No way. First down there, I'm going, hit me some ground balls. Hit me another one. Hit me another one. Come here, you. You're one of the best players in the league. You're a great hitter. Come here. What's your belief systems? What's your mental strategy? What's your syntax? And people are going, who is this person? And at the end of each day, at around 4 o'clock, what the players usually do is they get together and kick back and have a beer and relax in the clubhouse. You think I did that? No. I go back to my apartment, right? My little condo, where I brought my computer. I'm on the phone calling people. And I'm calling the office and they're going, I thought we got rid of him. And I did this for like 4 straight days. After the 4th day, Tommy Lasorda was coming to town. And he was the coach of the Dodgers. And I wanted to go hear him. So I went and sat down and listened to him in this meeting and got to hear his story. And I promised myself right after that meeting I'd leave and go home, back to my little condo and work on things. But I didn't. You know why? Something happened that changed my life forever, and maybe in relaying the story to you, it'll change you as deeply as it changed me. I'm sitting in this room, Thomas sort of leaves, I'm talking with a bunch of people, and all of a sudden this guy walks up on stage and demands the attention of the room. He was one of the original Brooklyn Dodgers. His name was Carl Erskine. And he walks in like this. Gentlemen, everybody kind of looks at me and goes, we're showing a film tonight. It's called The Boys of Summer. I suggest you attend. And I'm going, what's this, right? What's going on? I turn to this other guy and goes, but all of a sudden I turn and I look, and about 20 professional baseball players stand up in a deep trance and start walking down this hall. I go, what is going on here? This is weird. And I thought, I got to go back and work on my stuff. Then my brain went, no, you got to see what this is. This is weird. So next thing I know, I'm walking down this hall. And we go sit down and we watch this film called The Boys of Summer. Now, it was about the Brooklyn Dodgers baseball team. How many of you know anything about the Brooklyn Dodgers? I'm curious. Quite a few of you. I didn't know anything about the Brooklyn Dodgers. I wasn't even alive when the Brooklyn Dodgers were around. So I thought, I don't want to watch this. And I got ready to get up and leave. And then my brain said, wait a second. This guy was too intense. There must be something here. And I'm glad I stayed because it changed my life. Because that film was not about the Brooklyn Dodgers baseball team and what they did, even though that's what it looked like on the surface. The movie was really about the power of team to transform the quality of your life forever. It never said that explicitly, but if you watched the film and didn't get that, you missed the whole film. Because what happened in this film was, if you're not aware of it, the Brooklyn Dodgers were probably the single most important element of change, leverage for change in our society in the last 40 years. Because the Brooklyn Dodgers did not just change baseball, but changed our society. Specifically, at that time, there were a mass number of people in our society that judged other people not by the quality of their character, but rather by the color of their skin. And the Brooklyn Dodgers were owned by a man who was disgusted by that fact. His name was Branch Rickey. He saw people judging people by color, and he said, this is insane. But saying it's insane doesn't change people. He said, I need to give people an experience that destroys their present belief. And he thought, the way I could do that is if I could get a professional baseball player, a black man, to play in the big leagues, play as well as any white man. Right now, they don't let a black man play because they say, 1, he's not as good, 2, he's like an animal, and he couldn't take the emotional pressure. If I could get them to do that, telling them that they're lying won't do it, but if I can demonstrate it, numbers don't lie, and I could destroy that belief, and they wouldn't be able to say it wasn't true. So I want you to know that before a gentleman like Martin Luther King could get up in front of 100,000 people in Washington, D.C. and talk about his dream, and before Miss Parks got on a bus and said no to a bus driver, the change started in sports, and it started with the Brooklyn Dodgers. It started because one man decided he wanted to make a change, and he was going to interrupt the pattern of association that people had in an entire country Because the only reason people treat people a certain way is what they associate to color or shape or style or voice or whatever. So you know what? He spent 2 years looking for a guy who could play, because he knew he needed a guy that could not only play better than almost anybody else, but also no one would go through the kind of abuse this man would go through unless they were doing it for more than just themselves. They'd have to be what kind of player? Clearly, he'd have to be a team player, because he knew this man would go through tremendous abuse. He spent 2 years, finally found a man. What was his name? Jackie Robinson. If you're going to find somebody, Jackie would be the guy you'd find. Why? He could steal, he could hit, he could field. He was an unbelievably intense competitor. Brilliant man, UCLA graduate, been in the Army and was an officer. Most importantly, he understood his position in history, and most importantly, he was a team player. Because when Branch Rickey pulled him in, he said, I want you to understand what this means. If you snap back, you're going to get abused. Verbally, physically, in every way. If you smack back at somebody, verbally or physically, they're going to say, see, he's an animal, he can't handle it. And it'll be another 10 years before another black man gets a chance. So this isn't just for you, this isn't even just for the black race, this is for all of us. We got a chance to create an opening in people's associations. We got a chance to show that those old associations are lies. But you got to absolutely direct and control yourself. Talk about state management. And he said, and it won't be worth it if you're just doing it for your own glory, because you'll give up. But if you're willing to do it for something bigger, if you're willing to commit yourself to something much bigger than yourself, you'll get the ultimate rewards. And Robinson really was committed to that. He was a team player. He was committed to something bigger than him, and he got the rewards from it. He also got the pain up front, didn't he? He got abused more than anybody in history. First of all, he played better than anybody else, but he got everything from, go home nigger, all the verbalizations. But he got much worse. He got psychological abuse. Players on the other team would walk up to him right before a game, stare him in the face, and then spit their chewing tobacco all over him. Yeah. Then they go up and go, God, that's disgusting. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And they come up like they're going to wipe it off, and they spit the rest of it all over his face. And he had to manage his state, not say anything, turn away, wipe it off, and go back onto the field. You talk about state control. I don't know if I have that much state management. Right? Well, they said, what are you, a yellow nigger? You yellow? Interesting. Known fact that before the game, right, on the Dodgers, the big thing was, they said, you get these letters before a game that say, if you go on the field today, we got a gun. We're going to blow you away. Big joke on the Dodgers was, don't you stand too close to Jackie. If you played second base or shortstop on the other team, it was a known fact throughout the league that large numbers of players would sharpen their spikes the night before, so they were razor sharp. So invariably, Robinson would get on and he'd try and steal second. If you couldn't tag him out, you came down on him and cut his legs wide open. He was scarred for life, all down both legs, by people who purposely cut him open just to try and get him out of the league. How do you think his own team responded when they found out they had the first black player in history? They went, oh boy, we got the first Negro. Ain't this exciting, guys? No. They threatened to go on strike. They said, what's the matter with Branch Rickey? Was he crazy? I didn't play with no nigger. No animal. How would I ever explain this to my family? And they all said, we're going on strike. And Branch Rickey said, fine, I have your contracts, go on strike. You'll never play baseball again for the rest of your life. Also known as leverage. Right? They said, whoops, well, I guess we could play. But you know what? They totally abused Robinson. Verbally abused him. They isolated him. They took his uniform and cut it up. Right? They gave him every kind of verbal assault. They punched him in the locker room, knock him around. Probably the worst thing that ever happened is one time after a baseball game, he went to put his dress shoes back on, put them on, cut his feet wide open because somebody had rigged razor blades throughout the insides of his shoes. His own team. Has that ever happened to you? Has it ever happened to you where it felt like your own team, the people you cared about most, seemed to turn against you? Anybody ever had that happen in their life? What do you do when your own team turns against you? I'll tell you what Robinson did. Robinson decided that even if no one else was going to play team, he would. And you know what? He gave 1,000%, even though no one else seemed to care or support him. And what happened was he got more hits, scored more runs, stole more bases. He got so successful, it became clear he was going to be Rookie of the Year. And some of the people that hated him most became his biggest supporters. Because I'll tell you something about results. If, in spite of everything, you'll give 1,000% and produce results, sooner or later the tide will turn. I promise you. Even though it seems unfair, if you'll continue to give, even when no one else will, you will get the results you want. In fact, one man once said, the greatest revenge is massive success. And Jackie Robinson had that. He was so successful that finally what happened is the Brooklyn Dodgers called their own team together. And the captain of the team, his name was Pee Wee Reese. He pulled everybody together except Robinson. He said, gentlemen, we got a problem in case you haven't noticed. We got a guy here on our team. And he's probably the best player we got. He's stolen more bases. He's got more hits, scored more runs, going to be Rookie of the Year. And we're busy losing ball games. The ones we're winning are because of him, and we're abusing him. We're treating him worse than the other guys. We're treating him like he's the enemy. I suggest we do one of two things. Either let's just get rid of him once and for all, or let's accept him as our teammate, and maybe we can learn something from him and start winning some ball games. Now, I want to know who here is willing to support this man, as a teammate, regardless of the color of his skin. And it was just quiet. Finally, one guy stood up. I think the first guy was a guy by the name of Preacher Rowe. He stood up and he raised his hand. He said, I'll support him, Captain. He said, I tell you what, I think the way we've treated him is disgusting. I don't care what the color of his skin is. I'll tell you one thing. I'm a pitcher. He has scored and made us win more games, for me at least, saved more games for me than I care to count. He said, the bottom line is, I'll do whatever it takes to support him. I'm behind him 100%. Pee-wee said, thanks. Who else? It's quiet for a little while, and then this one guy kind of struggles to his feet, and he goes, well, I'll support him too. I have to admit, he's about the best player I've ever seen at that position, and he's helped us more than anybody on this team, and we're not treating him right. His skin's a little dark, but other than that, he's okay. Third guy stands up in support. Fourth guy stands up in rage. What are you guys, crazy? He's a nigger. He's an animal. He's vermin. He's filth. How would you ever explain to your family you're gonna play with an animal just because he hit a baseball soaking an ape? I'm not playing with no nigger. I will destroy him. No nigger's playing on my team. I will get rid of him personally. Don't you worry. No nigger's playing on my team. And the whole place was dead quiet. And Pee Reese just stood there for a moment. And he walked up to this guy, looked him straight in the eye and said, if that's how you feel, then maybe you aren't on this team anymore. And sure enough, a week and a half later, the Brooklyn Dodgers traded this man away. And something interesting happened. A group of individuals changed their focus from how can I succeed and get what I want to how can I support my partners, my teammates in being the best they can possibly be. And with that simple change in focus, history began to be made. Because all of a sudden the Brooklyn Dodgers found that 1 + 1 does not equal 2 when it means human beings. 1 + 1 creates something called synergy, where you get something much bigger than just the two of you put together. And all of a sudden this team started winning ball game after ball game after ball game, started going to championship after championship after championship, World Series after World Series after World Series. One unit whose whole focus was, hey, how you doing? And getting each other in state. That's basically their whole focus, was how to get each other in the best state they could possibly be and support each other in staying in that state. That was what they did. They went to World Series after World Series after World Series, and finally, they beat the Yankees. The film would have been an incredible metaphor for the power of team if it ended there, but where I got my lesson was next. Because instantly the film went from today, or excuse me, 30 years ago, to today. Interviewing the players 30 years later, that's where I got a lesson of a lifetime. Here's the lesson I got. They go interview these players, right? And they go to one of the guys and they go, what was it like being on the Brooklyn Dodgers? And it's like you turned on a light switch in his face, like this beam of light comes out of his face. He goes, oh God, it was so incredible. This person, that person, we did this and this and that, we did this and this and that and this, and this huge smile and this just energy just pouring out of him. Now what's interesting is, what do you think they talked about while they were lit up like this? Do you think they talked about, the hits they made, the catches they made, their World Series rings? Is that what they talked about? No. The one word every one of these guys said as they lit up, that they said over and over again, an average of 6 to 24 times with each player, was the word what? Team. They kept talking about their relationships with each other and what they had created and what it was like to be a part of that team and to be connected and each other. And they lit up. But here's the lesson. Then the interviewer turns to each one of them one by one and says, so tell me, what are you doing now? And the guy goes from like this with the light going team, 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 team to, well, I'm the president of the bank. And I'm going, what? What's going on? This guy's looking depressed because he's president of the bank. They go to the second guy and he's like, team, 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 team. Yes, yes, yes. And they go, so what are you doing today? And he goes, well, I'm real successful, and I'm a multimillionaire, and I have 7 companies, and I travel all around the world, and I'm very happy. And I'm looking at it going, what is going on? And then after I listened to them talk more and more, I finally got it. The problem is they no longer feel like they're part of a what? They had the mistaken notion that the only way to be on a team was to play baseball. And there's no bigger lie. But I'll tell you one thing, if you think you want to succeed and you're just going to do it on your own, you're going to make it to the top of Success Mountain, if you get to the top of Success Mountain by yourself, you'll probably jump off. That's what people like Freddie Prinze did, Elvis Presley, John Belushi. Some people go, yeah, well, I don't want to succeed then because I don't want to be at the top because it's lonely at the top. It's only lonely at the top if you don't take your friends. That's when it's lonely. Now, and by the way, it isn't lonely at the top. There are plenty of people at the top. It's true the bottom is more crowded. But the bottom line is that comes from not taking care of your team around the way. It comes from denying the relationships just to get something, and that will not make you happy. But see, these guys have got the success, but they don't feel the connection, and now they're almost depressed about their lives, and they're totally alive when they think about team. Bigger lesson, fun lesson, they interview one of the players, and one of the players there, it's so clear, he's the only player that's not happy. They go, what was it like being in the Brooklyn Dodgers? And he goes, it was fine. And they go, well, tell us more. He goes, well, I made some of the best hits that they ever had. I caught that one catch in the World Series, probably saved the whole darn game. He talks on and on and on, and he's got this anger about him. Only one who didn't light up. And he's the only one who never once mentions the word what? So finally, it's so obvious to the interviewer that finally he says, well, okay, that's great, but what was it like being a part of this team with these guys? And he said, well, to tell you the truth, I never really felt like I was part of the team. Didn't bother me, though. And he goes through these massive contortions in his face. I mean, unbelievable contortions in his face. He's so incongruent, it's a joke. So they go back and they interview the other players. And they start talking to him about them. And they said, this guy didn't feel like he was part of the team. How'd you feel about him? And invariably they go, well, he was really a great player. No emotion, though. And the other guy would say, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He's not there yet. And because the other guy said, yeah, it should be in the Hall of Fame. Maybe he'll get smart this year and put me in. They said, yeah, he really should be in the Hall of Fame. I hope they do vote for him this year. He was really a great player. But no emotion. So invariably, the interviewer would finally say, well, how'd you feel about him personally? And their response was something to the tone of, well, he never let you get close. He's the kind of guy, you try and get close to him, he push you away. You'd say, great job, and he goes, shut up. Or you pat him on the back and he'd smack your arm. Or like, we invited him to parties. He never came, you don't have to come to every party, but he never came to one in 7 years. It's kind of hard to connect with. But he really is a great player, and he does deserve to be recognized. But they had no emotional connection. So he went back to the guy and I said, these guys said they really liked you, but you didn't let them get close. He said, oh, yes, I did. He said, look, you never went to a party in 7 years. Go, oh, yeah, what was that to do? All the parties were in New York. Was I supposed to drive to New York? He said, well, they were in New York because 12 of the players live there, and Preacher Row lives twice as far from New York as you do, and he never missed one party in 7 years. Oh, yeah. Well, what am I supposed to be, like Preacher Row? I told you, it doesn't bother me. Why is this man so unhappy? Because he's never felt like he's part of a what? By the way, who's responsible for whether you feel like you're part of a team or not? Is it somebody else's responsibility or yours? If you don't feel like you're part of a team, you got to be the one to change it. See, sometimes to be on a part of a team, you got to drive. Sometimes you got to climb. Sometimes you got to fly. Sometimes you got to get up early and stay up late. But I want to tell you something. You are worth it. Because as much as you give to a team, you always get back much more than you give. See, the value of putting yourself on the line for a team is what it makes of you, because it'll make you grow, which means you'll be happy and wealthy long-term in life. And if you don't join a team that you can commit to and give 1,000% to, then you pay the ultimate cost of not being who you really are long term, and you pay the cost of knowing that. See, I believe everybody in life, their life ends up either being an example or a warning. And one way to be a warning is not join a team and not commit 100%. One way to be a warning is go off by yourself and hide out. It'll feel good for a while, but sooner or later you've got to come back to how much are you really contributing. And if you don't feel like you're contributing, you're not going to feel good about yourself. You're not going to have the joy. Plus you miss out on the connection of all the laughter and fun and the problems and the memories of breaking through all that with people you care about. Pretty intense. Some people say, but I don't have a team. I like to, but I mean, it's not easy finding a team these days. Come on. Every one of us in this room is on a team. One team you're on is called your family. One team you're on is called your business or the people you work with. There's a team. One team you're on is called Seattle. One is Washington. One is the United States of America. One of the teams every one of us in the room is on is a team called humanity. The question is not, are you on a team? The question is, are you out there playing the game or are you sitting on the bench? Are you swinging the bat or are you picking at your legs? I mean, think about it. Some people in life have been sitting on the bench so long, by the way, they've not contributed for so long, they're sitting on the bench so long that their butt is stapled to the bench. And I want to tell you something, if you're not contributing, if you're sitting on the bench and you're not really contributing to a team, you're going to get bored. So inevitably, when you're on the bench and you're bored, what you usually do is get a TV set. That's the first sign of lack of contribution. The second sign is you watch it. The third sign is you start getting hungry a lot when you're sitting on the bench. Do you ever notice when you're playing the game, you really don't get as hungry, do you? Because you're in it. But you're not contributing, all of a sudden you tend to get more hungry and tend to eat a lot more because you're sitting on the bench. It's real boring on the bench. It's real frustrating on the bench. You might even develop some phobias. Or you'll notice little things you never noticed before because most people don't have problems because they're too busy being successful. But if you start sitting on the bench, you start noticing, oh yeah, look at that. Well, yeah, look at that. Wonder what that is. Oh, there's a gray. Oh, I see a gray. Oh yeah, well, yeah. You start noticing all kinds of little stuff that doesn't mean anything. You start getting slivers in your butt from rubbing back and forth on that thing. And it's not a very nice life. You go, but Tony, what could I do? I'm just one person. What can one other person do? Besides that, I'm not very good. What if I strike out and stuff? Hey, let the record book show you lost. Let it show you won. Let it show strikeouts and let it show hits. But don't let it show you didn't play. How would you ever explain that? What would you say to your kids when they say, where were you in the 80s, Dad? Weren't you there? Well, I was busy. I was making a living. I was working hard. Working hard? What did you contribute? Well, I took care of you. Thanks. Interesting. So you're on a team. The question is, you're going to swing the bat or you're going to sit on the bench. If you sit on the bench, you're going to be very unhappy. Swing the bat. Even if you strike out, at least you're swinging the bat. But I'm just one person. What could I possibly do? I don't have an organization. I can't do seminars like that. I can do these things. I'm just one person. Is there something anybody can do? What if when you go into a grocery store, instead of just whipping in there, grabbing your stuff and getting out, what if you actually noticed humans around you? And you actually connected to them in a way that made them feel better? Would that be a contribution? What if when you went through the aisle and the person's running the scanner across things in their deep trance, right, in their normal life, what if you broke their trance for a moment and made them feel good about themselves? By turning them and saying, wow, I like your teeth. And their mouth is closed and they go, what do you mean? Or you can say, can I see your teeth? And they go, what for? I say, I'd like to see people smile. What if you turn them and said, God, I love your outfit? Or what if you turn them and said, God, and you ask them any kind of question that made them feel good? Or you turn them and say, God, I'm curious, what are you happy about in your life right now? Or what are you proud about in your life right now? Or what are you excited about in your life? They go, I'm just curious. So you want to give somebody a gift? All you have to do is change their state. How many of you could change somebody's state real easily in life? Great. If you did that, does it end there? Now that they feel good, first of all, do you feel good about contributing to somebody else? Sure. Second of all, what's going to happen to the next person that comes in the aisle? They're going to go, hey, how you doing? How are you? See my teeth? Well, they'll say, let me see your teeth, right? All of a sudden, their state will affect the next person. And when that person leaves the store and goes home, does that state affect the people they see? Is there literally, when you drop a stone in a pond, does it end there as it hits the water? Or is there a processional effect where the rings go through the entire pond? See, you're just one person, but there are things you can do. You just need to get creative. Becky and I were home recently, and we went, what a concept, we were home. And we went out to dinner. We took the kids, and we went to this place called the Chart House. Do they have those up here, by the way? Yeah, we went to the Chart House, a nice salad bar and stuff. It's on the water. And we go in there, and we get this waiter who gives us the most incredible service you can possibly imagine. I mean, he really, really takes great care of us. So I decided that I want to contribute something. I can do something right here, right now. Now, I could tip him. I'll be happy to do that. I do that anyway. But I want to make it have more of an impact than just a tip. I want to make a bigger splash. So I thought, how could I do that? And I came up with a strategy. Knowing the principle of contrast, that is that when you change things, if you make them radically different, people appreciate them more. I called the young man over, and I said, sir, I need to see your manager. And he went, is there something wrong? I said, no, I just need to see your manager. And he went, well, is there anything I can help you with? I said, no, I need to see your manager. He went, okay, I'm really sorry. No, I said, nothing to be sorry about. I just need to see your manager. He's like, ugh. So he runs over here, right? And sure enough, about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes later, the manager comes over, and I can see him like walking up, kind of like, you know. He walks over and he says, can I help you? And I stand up, right, reach down, shake his hand. I go, yes. My name is Tony Robbins. And I want you to know, I've been coming to this restaurant with my family for about 3 years. And every single time I come in this restaurant, I get the most incredible service I can possibly imagine. The guy goes, you go, huh? I said, I get the most incredible service. It blows my mind. I mean, the service here is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And I want to just pull you aside because I know for service to be that good, there's a manager behind it. So I want to pull you aside and just really thank you for such incredible service. I also want to tell you, though, that tonight is an exception. The guy goes, oh, God, I'm so sorry. I said, you better be, because tonight is even better than I've ever had here. And he went, huh? I said, this young man, Chris, I said, I have never had a better waiter anyplace. I mean, he's done everything. He's here with my kids. He's done this. He's done that. I mean, he's handling all these tables. I mean, he makes us feel just happy to be alive, just being around him. He is absolutely phenomenal. I want you to know you're incredibly lucky to have him, and I'm sure he's lucky to have you. But I just want to really thank you, because every time I got great service, and I want you to know how lucky you're to have this guy, because he is absolutely phenomenal. Thanks a lot. Okay, I'll be sure to reprimand him. He leaves kind of skipping off, you know, right? And so then all of a sudden Chris, our waiter, comes back over to the table, and it's obvious he hasn't gotten the news yet, because he's like, can I help you with anything else? And so sure enough, finally I see his manager point to him and go, you're modeling me, right? And all of a sudden I see him like this, and all of a sudden he starts smiling and laughing, but we didn't end there. I looked at the table next to me, and I went over to the person next to me at this table, somebody I didn't know, and I said, excuse me, what kind of service are you getting from this young man? I said, oh, God, it's so incredible. He's so great. No. I said, well, would you help us? We want to acknowledge him. We're going to leave him a great tip, but what we're thinking of doing is giving him a standing ovation when he comes back over here. So 3 of the people at the table said, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. And this one woman in the group said, we'll do it. I said, great, you're in charge of these people. You manage them. We're going to do it. So sure enough, he's already walking on clouds because he just got this incredible compliment from his manager. He starts walking over the table, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the restaurant, 2 tables full of people stand up and start clapping like this for him, right? And I'm tapping on the table going, Chris, 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 Chris. He's like beaming, you know, and the whole restaurant's looking around, want to know why we're clapping for this guy, right? And we gave him a great tip too. But I'll tell you what, the tip had no impact in comparison or contrast to how I felt. And every time I walk in there, it's go, oh, hi, Mr. Robbins, how are you? And the manager goes, hi, Mr. Robbins. So I got back tenfold too. But see, you know, it took the same amount of time to sit there and just say thank you and put down a tip as it did to create some magic. See, that's the difference. Creating magic, taking care of your team. See, that's what life is about. And you get it back 100-fold. But you got to be willing to put it out. You got to be willing to be creative. You got to be willing to take care of your team. Now, remember this guy I told you was so unhappy? Check this out. They interview his son. And they go, what's it like having a father who's a potential Hall of Famer? And his son goes, it's fine. Have you heard of modeling? They go, well, how do you feel about this?